is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Unspoiled, covering WestWorld, Season 1, Episode 4, Dissonance Theory. In this episode, the man in black makes some progress, R.E., the snake. And her story is really upsetting. Welcome to Unspoiled. The show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
And there was a lot happening this episode. I decided to really zero in on one thing that was going on, but there is a whole lot that's kind of coming to light, and I'm formulating a theory.
Uh-oh, you got theories. I've been waiting.
Theory. So
I've been waiting for theories.
Yeah, there is a lot out there, I've noticed. Of reviews like that we're following along as this aired that do not spoil beyond the episode. But I'm trying not to read them just because I don't want to get a theory in my head that I wouldn't have come up with by myself.
Good.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like that started to happen when there was a thing for when I covered Twin Peaks for patrons. There were a couple of different blogs that covered Twin Peaks as unspoiled viewers, and they put ideas in my head that it would never even have occurred to me, you know? And while it can be fun to bring that sort of thing up, it's just not what this show is really about, and I feel like it would be cheating, almost. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, as I watched it real time, you know, and I think I've said this already, I went all in with like crazy theories and trying to figure out what the fuck was going on and like talking to other people who were watching it real time. But I didn't read a lot of external stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Until I got my theories. And then I was kind of looking for confirmation to see if I was crazy, you know?
I got you, yeah.
Yeah,
and it's different when you're just watching it for yourself. If I were just watching this for fun, I would definitely be going and reading all kinds of stuff, probably. But yeah, for the way that we're doing this, I feel like it's just sort of shortcutting. So, yeah. The episode begins again with Bernard and Dolores. And every episode has started this way. Except for the very first one, they're still talking to her, but it's not Bernard that's speaking with her at that point. And he asks her if she knows where she is. She says she's in a dream. He asks what happened to her parents, and she starts to get really upset. And he tells her to cut it out.
Yeah, limit emotional affect.
Yeah.
And then it's like immediate.
And I'm like, why can't I just do that?
Yeah,
cool.
That is one of the things that we see multiple times, and it has the same impact on me every time. I just get like a little bit of a chill because it's such a transition.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, especially this scene, when she's talking about watching her parents be murdered and, you know, she's practically hysterical. And then it's like on a dime, it's just like she's a thing, you know. Yeah. She goes from being seemingly human to being just like this object in just a second. It's so striking.
Yeah. Yeah, she goes to being this object, but then when he tells her that he can take that pain away from her, she becomes emotional again. And it says, why would I want that? And tears come to her eyes. And she talks about how the grief makes you think that your heart will collapse in on itself and that there won't be room for anything else. But instead it feels like there are rooms inside her opening up that she didn't know were there.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems moved by this and asks her, "Did we write that for you?" And she says, "In part, I made a variation on a monologue about love." And that, like, again, her emotional affect drops away when he asks her that question. It's just back and forth, which, as an actress, I can't imagine how draining it must be.
She's so good in this fucking role, man.
To just jump in and out and back and forth, like, Jesus Christ, okay. And after she finishes being like, "No, don't take this away from me," she says that she thinks that there's something wrong with this world.
Mm-hmm.
And that she thinks she may be losing her mind, or that she's right. Like, either there is something wrong with the world or there's something wrong with her.
Right.
Basically.
It's got to be one or the other.
And then he tells her about how he'd really like to try her out playing a game that's called The Maze.
How about that?
So Bernard knows about this maze, which I don't know what I thought it was, but I didn't think that anybody would know about it except for really, really high level people,
right.
Which I guess he is.
Well, yeah, he's like the sort of the second in command to Ford, but appears to be under Teresa because of her position on, as like the corporate. Oh my God. So it's surprising to you that Bernard seems to be aware of something that you would think would be so secret, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it could be like, because I had been theorizing before that Bernard might be behind this whole thing that's going on with these awakenings, but that it didn't feel quite like what I would think his goal was from what I know of him. And I may be wrong about that, but there's also no necessary reason why the maze and whatever's happening with the awakening are completely interconnected either. They could be totally different things.
Right.
Because the first time we hear about it is from the Man in Black, not from one of these robot hosts.
Right. He's like on the outside. You don't think he would be privy to this type of information.
Right.
Okay. So after the scene with Dolores in the basement, it goes to her waking up. And she's got a gun in her hand.
Yeah.
And she's with William and Logan.
Fucking Logan, man. He says something about how it's an acquired taste and you'll grow to love me, I promise. And I'm like, maybe. But this, like, what keeps on kind of striking me is that she looks to me like she's, 26? Maybe? Mid-20s?
I would say a little bit older, but okay.
Yeah, I think mid to late 20s. And every time that they have somebody like talking to her who's from the script, they're treating her like she's a teenager. Because later on they like run into they go into town and this guy is like, "Your daddy's probably worried about you. We heard there was a girl missing." And I'm like, she could have her own homestead. Like, why are you acting like she's just like left middle school? She skipped class like, a little too early. But anyway, I'm jumping way ahead here. So yeah, she wakes up and then we go to Maeve, who is talking with Clementine. And something really weird happens here.
Yes, it does.
It's almost like her memory of this whole conversation happening before is replaying in her head in the exact same, almost, it seems like more than a memory. It seems like a recording.
Yeah, it's like she's having a computer version of deja vu, where it's like a program is rerunning, but she's aware that it's being replayed at the same time it's actually happening.
And I think when she looks at this guy who's over there laughing, I think the implication is supposed to be that he came in here yesterday and just shot everybody.
Mm.
And like she sees his face, and that combined with like this like memory in her head is it's just triggering that this just happened.
Right. Like because I want to mention too, because they do it twice. They do this. They would have done it before too. This thing with the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like this episode opens with this really crazy shot. This like inside of Dolores's iris.
Yeah.
Right, and then it pans out, and then it's like you see the reflection of Bernard in her eye.
Mm-hmm.
And then the scene with Maeve just now. She's talking to Clementine and she starts to glitch, and the camera does like a sideways thing, and she starts to see blood like, trailing into Clementine's eye.
It's like perfectly falls along the outside of her eye like eyeliner.
Mm-hmm. And then it's like the camera shifts and they're lying on the floor together, and that's the angle she's looking at.
Yep.
And then she's back. Maeve,
yeah.
I mean.
And she remembers this dude, and the image of him walking around, like smiling and laughing and shooting everybody,
mm-hmm.
it's super well done, because it is, and I keep saying this more to remind myself than anything, it is exactly what I would expect of like some dude who's in like a VR video game.
Yep.
Like this goofy smile, just let's see what happens. Oh, I pulled the trigger. Oh, there she goes. Like it is just so not real to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's completely 100% real to everybody it's happening to. And they're watching this guy who looks like if they picture him as being just as much of a real human being as they are, the guy looks like a madman. He looks like a straight up psychopath. And that would be so scary to me. Mm-hmm. Somebody who's laughing that way.
And her face, the fear on Maeve's face, mm-hmm. It's fear and confusion.
Yeah.
And Tandy Newton is so phenomenal in this role too. But it's like this, she's feeling like this has happened before. So she's feeling like the horror from the first time it happened, and then the horror that it's happening again right now.
Right.
Yeah. And then she goes up to her room. And what'd you think of this?
This was it was about a split second before she pulls up the thing that I was like, are there going to be ones in there already? But it wasn't soon enough to ruin it at all. It's just like, as it was entering my head, she pulls them out, and I was like, oh, that's so fucked up, because she keeps having these memories of being shot, and then people in crazy outfits standing over her, talking about her. And they what's killing me about this too is that they just had her infected with MRSA. Right. And now they're like, oh, we'll just send her back out into the world with a piece of bullet still embedded in her body. Like, whatever. I'm like, guys, have you learned nothing? And it really kind of drives home that this operation is so... it's so routine. It's like, people working at McDonald's who well, you're only supposed to leave it out for 4 hours, but it's fine. Leave it out for 5.5 hours. It's fine, whatever. You know what I mean? You just get to this point where you've been doing it so long, and you know what the real, how long things are really able to stand up to it, and how much the manager gives you shit if you don't have things done in time, or if you have too much that you throw away at the end of the day.
So they were like, just patch her up, it'll be fine. We'll just put a little putty on it.
I just don't want to hear it when they say that they want her back out on the floor immediately. I just don't want to hear it. So yeah, fine, put her out there. Who cares?
And she has this other sort of memory of a family walking through town, and a little girl drops a little doll, and it looks like the men that she's been drawing, that she's been seeing, the The men that we see is like the guys in the hazmat suits.
Well, that's not a memory. That actually happens later. Because she takes the doll with her.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I'm sorry. Wait. Oh, yep. Nope. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I thought that happened already, though.
No, that happens way later.
Okay.
So yeah, she's like got that stack of drawings in there. And, that was something also that kind of caught me by surprise because we had been discussing whether or not they had the cameras in everybody's rooms, and we know that they do, but apparently they just don't like constantly monitor everything because there just hasn't been a reason to, probably.
Right.
And so she does have a hiding place that apparently nobody knows about, which is pretty huge, actually. You know, that she's got a secret. Because everything that's happening with Dolores, like, she has some secrets, but it's unclear how much of it is actually secret.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Does Bernard know that she shot that guy? Like, is he aware? Does she tell him that?
She tells him that in that opening scene.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So, she doesn't really have secrets.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because we see throughout this episode that they're constantly monitoring guests primarily.
Right.
But also the host, because they say that Dolores is like way off her loop. So maybe if long as you're staying where you're supposed to be, there's no reason to draw attention to yourself. Like if Maeve had a hiding space that was somewhere else, you know?
Okay.
Like she had a stash on the outside of town or whatever.
Right.
It would be weird because what is she doing there? But since it's just in her room, there's no reason to pay attention to what she's doing up there.
Yeah. I wonder if, like, the fact that she has an injury that wasn't on script for either her or what's-his-face, if that will get their attention or if it will just look like they were just fighting over the safe because she's sitting on it. You know? That's
interesting. And then the episode ends with just, you know, them getting shot up.
Right.
So who knows if anybody will even notice, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the last time she was down in the, I don't even know what to call that. What did they call it? Oh, fuck. What did they call that part of the lab where the warehouse, the meat house, the slaughterhouse?
I would call it the butcher shop.
But I forget what they call it. But when she wakes up, so I imagine those guys really got like her out of there as fast as they fucking could.
Yeah.
Which is why the job is so shoddy.
Huh. So like such a weird job.
I wish I could remember what they called that. Pisses me off that I can't think of it.
I bet you can look it up.
All right, yeah, I'll see if I can find it. We even said it on the earlier episode too.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, because we were talking about it.
I didn't even remember that. Because I know that I called it something because it looks like a butcher shop or a slaughterhouse with all the blood and them just like in their giant waders and aprons and with the hoses. I think I actually said then that it looked like the fish department.
Yeah, we did talk about that.
So let's see. Then we go to what is her name? The woman that Teresa's yelling at.
Elsie.
I never remember her name because Elsie just does not feel right. Elsie's the name of a cow, not a person's name.
Oh, that's not nice.
It is like. It's not like I think she's a cow. It's just like I hear the names Daisy, Bessie, and Elsie, and I think of a cow.
You know what, though? That's fair.
You know,
I'll allow it. So Elsie, poor Elsie, because she is taking shit seriously.
She is,
and everyone is blowing her off and blowing smoke up her ass.
Oh, it's super frustrating.
And it's so frustrating. I get so irritated. Because she's fucking... Everyone else is so busy. What did she say? She says, I feel like everyone has an agenda here except for me.
Yep. Lol.
Right.
Don't you? Yeah, she is like... She is many of us at jobs.
Yeah, no shit.
Where we're like, does anybody even give a shit? Like, you're all here yelling at me as if you give a shit. But then you don't seem to be doing anything that actually indicates that you truly actually give a shit. And Bernard shows up, and she thinks for a second that he's going to be there, like, defending her, and she's totally
got backup. Nope, not at all. She wants to do a complete diagnostic on the guy that bashed his head in, which I think is reasonable.
Yeah.
Teresa, but Elsie's also kind of downplaying how fucked up it is what happened with him.
She is in this way that I think she's afraid she would be taken even less seriously if she stated it in its real terms.
Yeah. Well, she tells Bernard, she's like, we're not telling them everything. So it's like she admits that she's kind of complicit, right? With not saying how big of a problem this really is, because Bernard doesn't want to admit that it's a big. He's saying it's not a huge problem. So when Teresa's like, "This is terrible," she's like, "Well, it's not that bad. He still did what he's supposed to do. He didn't hurt a guest. He just hurt himself. So he's kind of still doing what he's supposed to be doing."
And he actually does you can't really like fall into thinking that they're lifelike because it can seem that way.
What'd you think of that?
Super gross. Guy.
Do you think because of what we've seen him do and how he is?
Yeah, it feels like he's doing his own little experiment thing with Dolores, and it's like when somebody like is cheating and their partner is like, I think you might be cheating, and they go, I can't believe you would accuse me of cheating. I bet you're cheating. I bet you have a guilty conscience. Have you ever seen that kind of thing happen? Where somebody's like being accused of the very thing that they're doing, and they just turn it all around, and you're just like, holy shit, that was almost masterful.
Right.
Like, he is just putting it into her. He's almost projecting all of his own doubts onto her, but not in a like an innocent, oh, you're doing this in this like really human way. He's actively doing it to mislead her so that he can get on with whatever crazy shit he's decided he's going to do.
Yeah. I had to look it up because when she shows Bernard the rock map, Bernard says there's 4 stars in Orion's belt, but there's not. There's 3.
I thought that too.
Yeah, so he's like actively, and that's the kind of thing she could just fucking look up, I would think.
But he's trusting that she's not going to. Which really is saying something in itself, that he's so sure she'll take his word on this, that it isn't even going to be necessary for him to come up with a good lie.
Right.
That he can just, which I hope she does look it up, though, because it seems like quite a mistake to make, this other dude who seemed so sure. And if she does, then she'll realize that Bernard is fucking with her somehow. And that's going to be bad news for him. And it is a really easy thing to look up. So, like, part of me is like, is he trying to get caught? Does he want her to be in on this with him? And he's just trying to, like, lead her in this weird kind of backward, reverse psychology sort of way into this with him? I don't know.
I love all of this.
Shut up. All right, so back with Dolores. And William. And she's just like pretty shook up. She doesn't like the situation that she's in. William can tell. And he keeps doing these things where him and Logan are both just like, they're robots, whatever, right in front of them.
Right.
And they have no reaction to that, which I'm sure people figured that the guests were going to say things like that, so they programmed them to not.
Yeah, they're not supposed to react to things that don't jibe with what their world is supposed to be.
Right.
which, the name of the episode,
right?
And then there's a little bit later when she's talking to William, there's a great moment where she does react.
Yeah, because he says it's a game, too. It's just a game. And she's like, well, what is he talking about? And I'm like, what is he talking about?
What did you think of her noticing that?
She already feels like there's something wrong. So if somebody uses language like that, it's just natural that at this point in her progress, she would zero in on that, know? Yeah, that just feels right.
So where are you with the idea that she is slowly making her way to some sort of consciousness?
Okay. So I have 3 theories happening right now. One of them is that the new storyline that our buddy Ford is working on is the storyline where they become self-aware. And so this whole thing is a setup, and he's completely aware of everything Bernard is doing, and that there's no actual organic self-awareness happening, that this is all actually programmed.
Oh, okay.
Which would be shitty, and I would hate it. I would hate it, and I would also kind of like it. I'd be, you know what I mean? The other thing is the people who are having this happen, as far as we have seen, the man in black has scalped 3 people, I think. Because it seems like that's what happened with him and Dolores. And what I took for him saying, I don't want it easy in the first episode, was him being like, I want to solve this puzzle, but I don't want you to just do whatever, because that's not me solving it.
Okay.
So I have 8 theories, actually. Now that I'm talking, I'm just there's too much happening. So, the 2 women who are having this happen are women that have had encounters with him, who he pops up in their minds and memories way more often. So it feels like his contact with them has jarred something, and that could either be a side effect of whatever he's doing to try and solve this maze game, or it could be a direct part of the maze game. It could be that he is going into their heads and flipping a switch to cause them to have their memories after.
Oh, okay.
Doing something that there's a backup hard drive where the usual techs who wipe them at the end of the day don't even realize they're storing memories that can't be reached with their regular wiping methods. Or because the third guy that he has scalped, that dude on the cliff,
Kizzy,
blood he drained. What's his name?
Kizzy.
Kizzy. What a name. He isn't somebody that we get inside his head at all. So we don't know what's going on with him.
Right.
If he's having this sort of thing happen or not. And, but his scalp is the one that the man in black has held on to.
Yeah, and he's just walking around with it.
Yeah, so if he's been, scalping other people trying to find this map, and they have not been the ones, and he's kept this one guy's, maybe they're meant to be players, and that guy was just, a piece.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Right.
And the man in black, it seems because he, bites somebody's head off later, who tells him that your foundation helped save my sister's life.
Mm-hmm.
And he's I'm on my fucking vacation. And he says something in another episode about how he's not planning on leaving again.
Yep.
I'm is he ill? And he's just going into this knowing that he's going to die here and that's fine? Or
he says that that's what he plans to do.
But then there's later when he says, when he's talking to the snake woman, what's her name?
Artemis.
he is talking to her about how a man named Arnold created a place where you could never die, but then he broke his own rule.
Mm-hmm.
And he died. And it turns out that maybe he left something where it was more than just a game. And you could actually die. So maybe the maze is... maybe it has to be populated with people, with hosts who are self-aware, who can get around whatever programming they have that keeps them from hurting people. Because that is like,
yeah,
the stakes are quite high.
And he says that. He says he wants a game with real stakes, with real violence.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm not sure why anybody would be looking for that, but, you know, whatever.
Rich white guys with nothing to do, you know? So, yeah, I feel like maybe him, quote, turning on whatever's happening in some of these hosts' minds is leading them towards being part of the bigger... Because the way that he talks about it, and the way that everyone else talks about it, doesn't feel like this is something anybody's ever done before. Like,
right.
Bernard mentions it, and I'm really wondering, because he knows about it, and he wants Dolores to participate in it. But when the man in black talks to that little girl, she says, the maze isn't for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it might not even be, like, for guests. It might be something that is specifically for the hosts. And it's a, like, because Bernard tells her, if you get to the center of it, then you become free.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, are all of the followers of Wyatt that are running around out there, who aren't getting shot anymore, and who are just torturing and murdering people because they're just, like, they've lost their shit, are they free?
Ones that have gotten to the center of it.
Yeah, and got their certain pieces of their programming just don't work anymore because they are aware of them now. Or because there's a switch in the middle that you just plug your hand into and all of a sudden that fixes it. Like, I don't know.
Well, what do you think about why it didn't exist until Ford spoke his name?
Right. Okay, so here's another theory. Arnold isn't dead and Wyatt is Arnold. That's my, like, big theory that I'm kind of going on now.
All right.
Because there is something about the way that he talks about him.
Who?
That Ford, when he talks about Arnold.
Okay.
He says about, like, you know, his memory, like, his part in this was wiped away and maybe I didn't stop them. In such a casual way, almost like the way that Bernard says that to Elsie, where I'm like, if you looked into it, would there be a record of that guy turning up dead in the park? Or is that something that he's just saying because he knows Bernard's not going to check into it?
Oh, okay.
Or did he fake his own death? Because they can make human-looking, very, very human-looking robots. So could he make one that looks like him and fake his death and then just be in the park? Living there? Because that's what Ford says, is that he related better to the robots. Like, he preferred them to people.
That's true. He does. When he has the conversation, he says that more than once, and he definitely says it again when he's talking to Teresa at lunch.
Yeah. And he also said that it was an accident, but Arnold was always very careful.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me feel like, okay, so there was an accident, and what we read into it initially is that, oh, so you know that he committed suicide, but really what you're saying is, but I don't think he's dead because he wouldn't have been that careless.
Right.
Which would make a lot more sense. And if that's true, then maybe Ford has been aware that Arnold's out there, has let him do his weirdo thing because it wasn't really affecting other storylines or anything.
Right.
And I don't know why, but it feels like he's stirring things up because almost I feel like he wants to like end the park.
Ford?
Yeah, like
he seems like he had that conversation with Bernard in an earlier episode where he feels like this is it. They've done everything that they were going to be able to do.
Yeah, it's almost like he has come around almost to where Arnold was. But it took so long because he wanted to see all of the other things that they could do that were more in line, like marketing wise and you know, business wise.
Right.
And now that he has seen it, and there really does not seem to be any end in sight,
right,
for the park continuing the way that it is, maybe he is just kind of like, maybe you were right, Arnold, my friend, and you're still out there, so maybe we can like join up now and both do this crazy thing.
Right. Ford also seems like he would have been way more invested in how far they could push the host, how real they could be, you know, without being real. And he's had 30 years to watch to see them, to, you know, see how much they could perfect it. All right. Okay.
And it would make a lot of sense why the stories of Wyatt like walking in and just killing everybody, why he could, you know, like the memory that Teddy has. He's like walking down the street in the middle of like 40 people, 40 bodies on the ground, and maybe he just couldn't be killed. I was working on a minor theory that the Man in Black was Arnold, but I threw that away pretty quick. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, whatever the case, whether or not Wyatt is Arnold, I don't think Arnold's dead. I think that he's around somewhere, and maybe Ford is Arnold.
Oh, but, shit. Well,
I don't know.
Then who is Ford?
Ford's got Arnold's brain inside of Ford's robot body. Because anything is possible. There are no limits in this universe.
Okay, so there's
Polyjuice potion. I'm really paranoid.
Oh, it's so nice to be on the other side. So there's a quick scene in headquarters with Stubbs, and a tech comes up and tells him that Dolores is gone wildly off of her loop.
Right.
And Stubbs says that they need to pull her in, and then it cuts to Dolores in a town and she's at the fountain. And she sees the little girl.
Yeah. So this little girl is just so creepy. She's like, there is no spoon. But
oh my god, that's so accurate.
Because Dolores is like, is this your town? And well, where are you from? And the girl's like, same place as you. Don't you remember?
And she draws the maze.
Yep.
And then in the dirt at the fountain. And then she's gone.
And Dolores has a little bit of a flashback, doesn't she? I'm trying to, because we skipped over a spot where the spot where the Man in Black first encounters Artemis with her rad.
Oh, that's right.
Tattoo.
Yeah, we
and he joins up with them, but that's, you know, that's what happens at the end. So sorry, I'm fast forwarding here to get to that spot with that little girl. Oh yeah, because the voices start whispering in this super creepy way. I don't care for this voice whispering thing. But that is triggered by her looking at this maze. Like, she gets really, is it I don't know. Okay.
She's, looking at the maze, and the voice says, I think, remember?
Yeah.
And then she does.
And she looks up at this dude who's trying to be like, your daddy's probably worried about you. And there's flashes between here and this church, seeing the little girl bending over a grave, not stone, wooden cross.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the gun in her hand and remembers that. And it's just a lot with this church, which I think is the church that was buried, where what's his face was showing
the steeple
Bernard.
From when Ford was with the little boy.
Yeah, like it might not like. There's probably a million churches in this place with the way that it's laid out and everything, but I would not be surprised if that place that this little girl is like, same place as you. Don't you remember? The one that got bulldozed and that it's like underground now. And she looks at this dude who's trying to collect her and says, I'm not going back. My father is dead. And he like grabs her.
Yeah. And she grabs him right the fuck back.
She does. And the look on her face, this guy needs to report this. I don't think he's gonna, but that is an alarming expression she has. That is Terminator style. There is no warmth or humanity in the look she is giving him, and it is very upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
And William comes out just as they're like grabbing each other and is like, she's with me. And he's like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, oh, have a good day.
Just like goes from this super intense moment to just like, oh, my bad. Just takes off. And we find out, like, because they're discussing it later, that they are meant to stay in their loops, but if a guest makes them do something else, they're meant to go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they aren't supposed to be like, no, I have to stay here, sorry.
Right. And when the tech tells Stubbs that she's off her loop, the first thing he says is, well, she would have guessed. Mm-hmm. And they can't tell because Ford's new narrative has got everything so jacked up.
Yep.
That they're having a hard time keeping track of where everyone is and what they're doing.
Which seems like it's on purpose. Everybody's like, you've got to stop with this. You're messing it up. And he's like, am I? Oh, no. We wouldn't want that.
So, after the little girl at the fountain disappears, do you have any thoughts about that exchange?
I don't know what to think of that. Like, is that Arnold?
Oh my God.
Everybody's Arnold.
The little girl is Arnold.
That's going to be the next thing up in the merch store, is a shirt that just says everybody's Arnold. I don't know, like, it feels like she just feels so out of place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's the one that's, it's almost like she's a plant from Wyatt's group or something. Like,
well, she seems to know some shit that other people don't seem to know.
She definitely does. But she's like, knows it in a way that feels like she always knows it. It's not like she remembers it every day.
She's like the archive.
Right? Honestly, that occurred to me, that idea. But yeah, like it's like she's getting wiped at the end of the day. Or like she's meant to be a waypoint somehow. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about that little girl. She's creepy, though.
Yeah, she is. You know, whenever you do the thing where you make the little kid, I mean, it's kind of a trope, you know. But it's super effective, though. I think that's why people keep doing it.
And I think when it's this kind of thing, like, because you can make the real creepy kid trope with, like, the, like, dark circles under the eyes.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
But the fact that she's so matter-of-fact about it, and is just like, come on, keep up.
One of the things I like about her is every character, it seems like, ends their sentence with a question mark. She's one of the few that just makes statements, you know?
Yeah, so she's the one that you really don't want on your improv team. Because everybody else is like, yes, anding. And she's going, well. And you're like, oh, hey, work with me here. I'm sweating up here. Yeah.
So then we go to the campfire with Dolores and William. And
where he's like, I guess I figured they kept you in zones or on paths.
He's
she
so
gets
adorable.
This look on her face. I used to believe there was a path for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, girl. Now I think I never asked where that path was taking me. And she gets this watery-eyed smile and talks about how we would always talk about how the cattle would
the
whether
Judas
they'd find
steer.
their way back. What's
With
that?
The Judas steer.
Oh, right. What a weird thing.
Right? I love it, though. I love everything about it. It's so dark.
Right? It never occurred to me that we were bringing them back for the slaughter.
Right?
Yeah. That's something that I often wonder about, like, with raising animals. How you just, I have a feeling I can be cold enough sometimes that I feel like I could get in the right mindset where I'd be cool with raising and slaughtering animals. But I definitely wonder about how you switch back and forth and go from like, oh, I'm really worried they're not coming home. They're going to be cold. Are they okay?
Yeah.
I'm hungry. Just like human beings are interesting.
We're complicated.
We are complicated. It's so annoying.
And she also talks about how she feels like there's more, like there's something beyond all of this. And that's when he starts talking about the world, like the real world.
And she looks up at the moon.
Yeah, and then some stuff happens.
And she has this feeling, it seems like, of being in first of all, there's a moment where it looks like the moon looks like paper. Like, she can tell that it's fake somehow. Then it turns into a, overhead searchlight, and she sees the shades. Is that what he calls them later? Yeah,
that's what Maeve calls them, or they tell Maeve that they're called. And Dolores sees herself dead, like outside of her family's ranch.
And she starts to faint, and he catches her. But it's really unclear if she's putting things to get, it just kind of abruptly goes from her seeing all of this to her being like, yes, please help me.
Yeah.
And huddling against him. So I'm not sure how much is staying with her after she has this kind of vision for her to mull over later, and how much of it is just an in the moment thing that she then doesn't recall.
Right. And that's the thing, because it's so hard for us to tell how much access to this memory they're going to have in any given time. Like, we're watching this shit happen and we remember it, but it's so hard to tell whether or not Dolores or Maeve or whoever is going to be able to recall something,
Right.
And the way we get these little glimpses, the way we're watching them get these glimpses. But then they forget that they got the glimpse. It's
indeed.
And then we go to Artemis and the Man in Black at their campfire. A lot of campfires.
A lot of campfires. And him telling a guy he's going to cut his throat.
Yeah. So we get some. What do you think about this information we get about the Man in Black, about what and who he is outside of the park?
I got nothing. I'm not even sure if it's supposed to be straight up, I just don't really care.
Okay, that's fair.
If he's got a whole other foundation where he's fixing people somehow, cool. But that is clearly not what he's about anymore. So, who cares? He doesn't. Why should I?
He doesn't seem to care.
He sure doesn't.
He does not want to have this conversation. And he is offended, I think, that this guy would dare even interrupt his his role playing. How dare you?
That's like, oh my god, that makes me think of what is the guy's name that is super hot that plays Malcolm on Jurassic Park?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh my god!
Like in the new movie?
No, in the.
Oh, fucking God damn it,
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum.
And he's like, there's a little like joke monologue that he has in something where he's like, people often ask me, Jeff, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Goldblum or Goldblum? And he says, and I tell them, first of all, how dare you speak to me? And that's how I feel about the Man in Black. It's just like, do not look at me in the eye. Do not make eye contact with me.
Oh God, that's a great line. First of all, I'm a big fan of first of alls anyway, though.
Oh yeah, because you got mad at me the other day because I didn't send you the video of Owen proposing.
Yeah.
And I had to do a first of all because I hadn't even seen it yet by that point.
I did a first of all to somebody on Facebook the other day. He answered my comment about like gun control, and he was like, he said first of, because he's like a middle-aged white dude. He doesn't even know how to say it. And he was like, first off, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, first of all, you don't know me well enough to be saying first of all. I said, you don't know me well enough to start a sentence like that.
Oh, I love that. That's really true. We don't have that relationship. Who the fuck are you? Okay, so he tells her, Artemis, that he wants to know about her tattoo, and that will be his price for getting the dudes out of jail that she wanted.
Because she wants to get Hector out of jail. And that's where they're going. That's their deal. But it's going to take 3 days. And the Man in Black is like, I don't have that kind of time. So this is what we're going to do. I'm just going to go fucking do it. And I want the story is my payment.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, all I need is one match. And she's like, one match, one gun, and one idiot. Yep. Yeah, I'll take those odds.
Can we talk for a second about Artemis?
She's the fucking best. We can talk about her all the time.
She is like, first of all, when I saw her first and she's topless and bathing, there was like a second where I was like, oh no. Mm-hmm. Are we going to do the super sexy outlaw thing?
Nope.
No. You only see her topless because you have to be able to see the whole tattoo.
Yep.
To know
that she's
and
the
then
snake.
After that, they just have her like kind of like red-eyed, and her hair's a mess, and she hasn't got a stitch of makeup on. Like, I'm sure she really does, but they don't have her.
They don't have her made
fake
up
eyelashes and the flushed cheeks and the whole thing.
Yes.
Because even Dolores, even though it's meant to look like she doesn't have makeup on, she clearly has some like brown eyeliner, the tame stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman, she looks like she rolled out of bed and put her hat on.
Yep.
And that was what she did. It's how I'm feeling today. She's just so rolling with the punches. He like shoots 2 of her guys to make room, and she's just like,
yeah. And then later on, she shoots 2 of her guys herself.
Mm-hmm.
I love too that when 2 things happen when she first comes back from bathing. She says to him, I like your hat. Maybe I'll keep it. And the horses can have the rest of you.
Mm-hmm. And
he says, well, how come I haven't met you before? Like, why didn't where have you been all this time? He really enjoys her.
Mm-hmm. a little smitten.
Yeah.
In like this like small way that he can be. I don't feel like he feels human emotion.
Exactly. Like I was going to use the word smitten, but I was like, that's conveying way more emotion than I think he is experiencing. He just enjoys her as like, there's so little that's new for him in this world, you know? Everything is so tired and like, he's kind of over it because he's so focused on his particular mission that she's like a delightful surprise, you know?
And she is, to me too, dude.
She is. I 100% agree. She's the best. And that tattoo is badass, and I wish it was real.
Yes, it is.
It's so fucking phenomenal. All like, and when she tells the story too. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get ahead of ourselves. So basically, he like lets himself and sidekick Lawrence get arrested, and the dude bringing him in takes the cigars that he like waves in his face that were rolled on the thighs of ample exotic women.
Yes.
Listen, I know he said rolled on the thighs, but all I could think was that they like put the tobacco between their thighs.
Stop it right now.
Walked.
You stop it right now.
Just like a chub rub, just rubbed those leaves into like a roll.
Oh my God.
Because that is what would happen if I put tobacco between my thighs. That shit would turn to powder, actually. It would just be like, where'd it go? My thighs ate it. I don't know where it went. I'm sorry. It's gone now forever. It's part of me. So they get locked up.
But he asks Artemis about the maze and shows her the scalp.
Oh, right, yeah.
But she, she's got nothing.
Yeah, she doesn't have a reaction to that, really. So they get locked into the cell, and they're like, oh, we're going to give your friend the firing squad that he wanted. And that dude is very upset.
Yeah, he just fucking throws Lawrence right to the wolves, it seems.
And Lawrence just, I'm going to fucking kill you. And he just goes, maybe someday. Which I really enjoyed that he said it that way. And meanwhile in the cell, Hector is there.
With his fine self.
Oh, that is like verbatim what I was about to say.
Is it?
I love you so much. Yup. I was about to say with his fine self, and then I was about to say with his fine ass. I was gonna like. But
before he gets to the cell, though, Man in Black and Lawrence have this conversation in the stagecoach, after they get arrested, and he's like, "I'm gonna free you. I'm your savior." And he tried to tell Lawrence how he says, all the choices that you've made aren't even your choices. Yeah. Lawrence doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, though.
He sounds like a madman. He sounds like the hitchhiker that you picked up because you were trying to do something nice and immediately regret it.
Right. He's like somebody knocking on your door to tell you about Jesus. And you're just like, what, dude? What are you're talking a whole bunch of nonsense.
Satan has guided your hand. You walked in the shadows you could not see.
Right.
For you did not have the light.
And it's weird that this is the only way he talks to the host. Like, every host he meets, he practically talks to. Like, he doesn't really... He's not playing the game the way the other guests are playing it anymore.
No.
There's no pretense anymore. He's just like, you're not a real thing. You're not a real boy, Lawrence.
So Hector, first of all, Hector's hat is pretty great.
Everything about Hector is pretty great.
He's got this embossed black leather hat, just like... And he says something about how Hector seemed like he was somebody who tested well in focus groups.
That's right.
I love that
my
whole
God,
thing.
that's right.
And Hector's like, oh, you sound like a man who's grown tired of wearing his guts on the inside. Which is a pretty fun line. And he's chewing on this match this whole time. And talking to Hector about how, listen, your friends are supposed to come here in 3 days, but we just really can't wait that long. So... I'm going to have to take care of this right now, if you don't mind. And Hector doesn't answer him. He just sort of sits up and is like, well, all right, let's see what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And he lights a match, and there's a transmission up to the control room.
I love it so much.
We're receiving a request for a pyrotechnic effect with low emission.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 charges, I think she said. And he lights the cigar that he's got, stuffs it into the lock of the cell door, backs up. It blows up and, like, blows the lock.
Yep.
And when they walk out, he is standing there with the guard is standing there with the cigar half lit in his mouth, and it just happens to go off right as he, like, raises his gun. And I think I like that because, like, it feels a little bit like, oh, really, in that moment? But I like that it's almost like the man in black had thought his head had already been blown off by the time they got out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he expected this dude to light up a little bit sooner than he did, and he was like, oh, shit. Oh, he only just lit that. Well, now what?
I love this cutaway to the team getting the request for the pyrotechnics and having to make it happen, because it's just this reminder that when we're with the man in black, we are fully aware that this is a game and that there are ways you work it, and this is how there's no illusion when you're with the man in black. You know?
Yeah, and, like, you keep on thinking almost that the man in black is, like, cheating the game. Like, he's getting around it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get reminded, no, they're watching everything he's doing.
Yep.
Like, it's not like he's, like, you know, on this side quest that they can't see. Where he's, like, working. But everything so far, oh, he's taken down too many people. You want me to slow him down? No, that man gets whatever he wants.
Yep.
Oh, he's requesting pyrotechnic effects. Yep, give it to him.
Yep.
So, because I keep on having that where I feel like he's doing something he's not really supposed to be, and that he is finding the cracks in the game and exploiting them. But that's not it at all.
Exactly.
It's supposed to happen.
Exactly. Like, and he's even telling us, telling every host that he comes into contact with about how he's on this amazing side quest. Right? But then, to your point, everything that he is doing is being monitored and being okayed, and he's getting a green light on.
Right.
And he knows it. So it's just this weird space he occupies where he's, like, trying to subvert the game. But so anyway, yeah. I had to say, I love that they included that whole, like, yeah, we could have just filmed this like he's doing this cool thing and puts the cigar in the thing and it just blows because that's what happens.
Right.
Like, they could have done that and it would have been okay, you know? But the choice to show that part, I just think is just why the show is so good.
Yeah, I agree. It just kind of... I also... The whole thing with, like, the pyrotechnics working the way that they do is a really interesting... Like, because we don't get any idea where he got the cigars. Or if he made them, or if they, like... Somebody told him, hey, want to buy some pretty exciting cigars? Right.
And
he, like, knew what they were ahead
cigars.
Of time. These are really special cigars. You can only smoke them once, but what a rush. So yeah, that's, I feel like, kind of sidestepping the question that I would have had if they just let it be an explosion. Where I would have been like, wait, what?
Right.
Where'd he find those? How'd he get his hands on that? Is that allowed? So, yeah, I agree. So poor Lawrence is over here about to get shot.
Like, how many times is Lawrence gonna almost get executed?
This poor dude. And is it the sheriff? Or I'm not sure if he has another name. But this dude drops his arm, and there's a bunch of shots fired, and he's, like, gritting his teeth, poor Lawrence. And the man in black yanks down his blindfold, And all of the dudes who have been about to shoot him are dead, except for the sheriff, who then falls because Hector just shot him.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I kind of enjoyed that. Like, you see the man in black, you see the sheriff still standing behind him. Camera turns to Lawrence's face. You turn back to the man in black, and the sheriff is falling down.
Yep.
I enjoyed that.
So, the man in black delivers Hector to Artemis, gets her story, and it's a fucking god-awful story.
It's awful.
What is this accent she's doing? Do you know?
I don't know. I was actually wondering that about Teresa also. Because both of their accents feel similar to me.
Yeah, I can't quite place it.
But, yeah, she says that this dude
rolls into town.
They killed everyone, even the animals.
Which is, and she's, yeah. Like, what is that?
I mean, the animals are robots too, right?
Well, yeah.
Like, maybe it's like a killing everything that isn't conscious sort of thing. Animals, one could argue, aren't conscious anyway. But even if they were real. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, she says that they cut her mother open. What does she say? From her throat?
To her sex.
To her sex. And that she had to cover herself in her mother's blood in order to make it look like she had been killed. And now, every time she finds another one of them, she uses their blood to paint her skin again. So her tattoo is made up of the blood of her enemies.
That's what it sounds like.
From that.
I don't know how practical that is.
It would explain why the color of it isn't too vibrant.
Right. But, I mean, as a metaphor, it's outstanding.
Right?
And then the man in black comments that, you know, the head of the snake that's on her face isn't colored in yet, and that's for Wyatt.
Yep.
Yeah. And from there, we go back to the Mariposa with Maeve and Clementine, and that's when they see the family being escorted through town, and the little girl drops the doll.
Right. I could see why you had remembered this as being a memory, though.
Yeah.
Because the way it starts off, it's like sepia, and the sun is on them, and there's like a slow-mo thing happening.
Right. And what does she do with the doll, though, when she picks it up? Well, she gives it back to the little girl.
I think she runs after the girl.
Yeah. And the thing, too,
I'm watching it now to see.
She has a memory. That's weird because it seems like it happens, but when she's in the Mariposa talking to Clementine, as she's talking, she remembers the doll on the ground. I'm going to pause it and let you watch.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to pause it.
Like earlier in the episode, you mean?
No. Right in this moment. So they're outside. It happens.
She picks it up and brings it back to the girl.
Right.
Then they go back into the bar.
Mm-hmm.
She's listening to Clementine talk to this dude about how much it's going to cost. And
maybe what that scene is that's the moment where she realizes she wants to talk to Hector. Because that's when Maeve says she recognizes the guy. He's one of the bandits. And then the scene cuts to the doll in the dirt again. And then it cuts back to Maeve. So maybe that's just her being like, Hector will know.
Okay, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, I think they're interested in more than a turn at Franny's backside. Oh, brother.
Why's it gotta be the backside, though?
Listen, apparently that's Franny's specialty. Don't judge. I have, like, there was an
Franny
interview
rhymes
with
with Fanny.
Oh, God, you fucking shut up. Fanny in Britain, though, still means vagina.
That's right. Isn't that weird?
Super weird.
Oh, the British.
Yeah, because when I had a friend who was on a work exchange program from Wales, And when I told her that she should get a fanny pack to carry her stuff, she like stopped dead and stared at me and was like,
"Oh my God,
what?
That sounds.
And
you should get a vagina to carry your stuff in."
And when I explained it to her, she was like, "Oh, that is not what that means at home." I was like, "What?" But yeah, I saw an interview with a couple of porn stars, female porn stars, who were talking about how they'll frequently prefer to do anal sex shoots because their ass can take so much more abuse than their vaginas can. That like, because you know, when you do porn, you have to have sex for hours in order to like film everything properly.
Any of this conversation.
Well, it was just really surprising to me because like so many women think of anal sex as being so much more painful and like just, you know,
but it can.
These women are just like, no. Once you know what you're doing, it's like way easier, and I would much rather that because
really
I start to be in pain if I'm doing too much vaginal sex.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
So they prefer the anal.
Yep.
For long shoots.
Yep.
Well.
Right?
Okay.
Something new every day. And they use coconut oil as lube usually.
Coconut oil?
Yep. Because it's an organic substance. It liquefies at body temperature like almost instantly, and it stays slippery for a really long time.
So is that right?
You have to reapply it, yeah. So
insert note-taking gif.
Yeah, right. Everybody out there who goes out and buys expensive lube, you may want to try coconut oil. Probably not with a condom. I would guess that might be a bad idea.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like
baby oil degrades the
right.
latex of condoms, so I don't know about coconut oil, but yeah.
Well, this took a turn.
I know, right? But yeah, I would always enjoy watching interviews with porn stars who were being interviewed by somebody who actually wanted to ask them questions and not just be super judgmental about it.
Right.
Because there was a few that I was just out of curiosity. I was like, I wonder what they think of this. And I went and like looked up one, and it was just this really ugly, judgy, like, well, I mean, why do you do this to yourself? Right. Kind of thing.
You know who used to have really good interviews with porn stars? Howard Stern.
Oh, that makes sense.
He would have fantastic interviews with them. All kinds of like just really interesting shit, like not behind the scenes, like titillating, like ooh, but just like how it is, and like some of the stuff that you wouldn't think would be a thing that is a thing, and yeah, he's actually a really good interviewer.
Yeah, I find like the whole like sex entertainment industry really interesting because it's so stigmatized. But it's something that, like, while I wouldn't want to do it, I could totally see the appeal of it. Mm-hmm. I really, like, get it. It's just not something that I would want to do.
Right. Do you know that I know a couple of ex-porn girls?
No.
I do. That. Like 3 or 4. Did like tons and tons and tons of movies.
I bet that, do they make good money? Because it can go back and forth. You either, like, hit it big and you make good money, or you get paid shit.
They were never, like, superstars. You know, they did like tons and tons of movies, and kind of like some of the more like the raunchier stuff you do is considered sort of like low grade. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I know like 3 women. 2 of them I've hung out with a bunch of times and have told me all kinds of crazy stories. I forget how I know them.
I had a friend who was a cam girl for a while, and she made amazing money.
Yeah.
And she finally gave it up because she was like, you know, I was getting to a point in my life where I knew I was going to start getting older, and I couldn't just keep doing this forever. And so I needed to get some skills.
But you can, though.
Translate. I mean, you probably could, but I don't know how much you keep making.
Listen, every once in a while, I will tell you about that Lisa Ling, Our America series that was on OWN that I highly recommend, because she went out and found just all the craziest stories of people. And one of the episodes she did, I know people are like, we're here for WestWorld, but one of the episodes she did was on people who do cam shows. Mm-hmm. And she interviewed like a husband and wife that do like amateur porn. And one of the people she interviewed was a woman who was in her late 50s, who was married, but she had a cam show, and she did really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this girl did not seem to have faith that would work out for her. So she wound up like stopping, but she still, even while I was friends with her and she like had a legit job, was like, I think about it though. Like I've been thinking about it, going back to it because the money is just so good. It's
I
really
wish
hard.
I had the balls to do it.
Right?
I don't have any moral, opposition to it. I just don't have the nerve.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that she said that there was a blocking like system that you could put into place if you were using like a certain site to broadcast yourself, where it would keep anybody within 3 states of being able to access your feed.
Right. That
so
makes
that way
sense.
you could lower the likelihood of somebody who knew you seeing you.
Yeah.
But for somebody like you and I who have lived all over the place, that might not be very effective in the end anyway.
It really wouldn't be.
So
shit, my mom lives like 5 states away.
Right, exactly. Anyway, so back to WestWorld. Bernard is in bed watching Teresa hurriedly get dressed because she has had her orgasm and is done now.
Yeah, she's got appointments, memos to write.
Oh, she's cracking me up. He has this like giant screen TV, I think, against the one wall with a fireplace in front of it. And it's such an interesting, like, ultra modern take on the fireplace with the flat screen on top of it that so many people have in their living rooms nowadays. But the room is like cement. There's no carpet.
I was just gonna say it's very the TV screen to me with the fireplace is like this attempt to make it homey. When it's such a sterile environment,
Yeah.
It doesn't look or feel like home at all. Even this mirror that she's getting dressed in front of, it's this mirror. It's got this light around it.
It's like a neon tube.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you can have a vanity that lights up because, you need it for your makeup and everything. But this thing it's way too big to just be a little vanity mirror, and the light around it's all very bleak
sterile.
and sterile,
Yeah.
And you're right, there doesn't seem to be any carpet. The walls seem to be made of concrete. His comforter was nice.
Feet down to get on the to stand up. I was just like, oh, it looks freaking freezing.
Yeah, I like the comforter, but
yeah, that does look cozy, actually.
And then from there, we see Teresa and Ford out at his new narrative. And there's all this, like, demolition happening.
Yeah.
And
she's got this look on her face like, mother.
Yeah. She's got her good pants on and her nice business shoes, and she's walking through all this crap. And then they end up in this really cute little restaurant, like on a balcony. It's very pretty.
Yeah.
And
it is kind of weird though, because like they're walking to the restaurant past a bunch of people who are like
digging and farming.
It looks like a chain gang.
Yeah, they're like working at some kind of like agave farm or something, So people are like in the fields working as they walk by. We find out in a minute that they're not people at all, though.
True, yes. And I figured they weren't when we were walking by them, but that was almost what made it so creepy.
Right. Like, imagine having hosts that just exist to, like, till your fields. Like, to what end? It's not real, though. It's fake fields.
Yeah.
So what do you think of this conversation? Because this shit was intense, and Anthony Hopkins is the best and also the worst. Simultaneously.
So unnerving.
That's exactly the word I used in the chat talking about this scene. It was unnerving.
He does this thing that I have seen described as a real power move, which is when someone is talking, you do not respond. You just watch them and let them almost talk themselves into a corner, or just sort of fade out because they don't know what else to say, or just see where they go with it.
I'm a big fan of this tactic.
It's a really frustrating thing to watch happening to Teresa, who is so collected.
Right.
When we see her, and then here it feels she's just so wrong-footed. And when she's like, I started to flip out, I won't lie, because she's like, I remember coming here with my parents, and was it this table or that table? And I was like, is she a fucking host? Are we about to find out that Teresa came here with her parents as a host and then this whole thing? And
well, okay.
At one point he says something about how we are like gods and you all are our guests.
Yeah.
And I get what he meant was you all, anybody who isn't us who invented this.
Right, exactly. She's the corporate side. She's the money people. She doesn't count. But
when he first said that, I just went, oh my God, did he just say it? Did he just say that shit? And then I had to like talk myself down and realize that like, no, that's not what he meant at all.
And it turns out that it is the exact table on purpose.
Yes. Yeah, because he's making a fucking point.
Yeah.
That they know everything about you. And they always know.
Yeah. He's heavy-handed. He's not subtle.
Yeah, and this dude is filling her wine glass.
How about this?
It just keeps on pouring.
Mm-hmm.
Pouring. And she looks over and sees that everybody is frozen.
Yep.
Everybody in the fields is frozen.
Yep. And we don't even see Ford do anything. There's like a tiny maybe wave of his finger when he starts it again. But I don't think we see him do anything to stop everything.
No.
And she's sitting down at this meeting in her nice blouse, which I love, and her wide leg pants. And she is a woman who is sure of herself.
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes talking to Ford, and she is fucked up.
Yep.
And I would be too.
And she has to take out a cigarette, which is one of her tells, as Bernard had said earlier.
Yep.
And he says that Arnold was a little too attached to things. And that the board also thinks that, like, he's too close to it, but that he actually sees things very clearly.
Right.
And that he doesn't have a lot of, like, I'm not a sentimental man, I think is what he says a few moments later.
So what you said earlier about how Ford maybe was coming more to the side of Arnold, this conversation, what do you think of it? Does that feel like it supports that, or does it feel like it's the opposite?
It feels like it supports it, because the whole thing to me is that he's like decided that he wants to give up on it because he has come over to Arnold's side and realizes that, like, Arnold didn't want to let the money people in. Arnold didn't want to have guests anymore. Arnold just wanted for them to live amongst a bunch of invented people.
They wanted to just be the creators of this thing. And not have anybody else in on it.
So if he's like doing it, feels like he is lining up with that. And she tries to do the board will agree with me, and they will be sending a representative. And he gets to do the fucking unstoppable play of, they already have.
Oh my God.
Thought they would have told you.
That line, coupled with the realization that she's having that she's completely surrounded by hosts and that they are all under Ford's control, which has got to be a little frightening. Right? I mean, the host can't technically hurt you, but there's a lot of weird shit that's been going on, and this man can just, like, make a gesture. And
the host can't technically hurt you as far as you know, but he can clearly do whatever the
exactly
fuck he wants.
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, if he wanted to nod his head and have one of these things pick her up and throw her over their shoulder and throw her in a closet, they could do that. It's a really frightening conversation, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's sitting there, like, trying to recover from him informing her the board's doing shit and not telling you about it.
Right.
And then there's this shaking, and her overfilled wine glass is, like, bouncing all over the place, making me super nervous because I'm OCD and I can't handle this kind of shit. I'm like, listen, killer robots, fine. A wine glass that's overfilled and bouncing on the table. Can
madness.
we not, please? Oh, I can only take so much. And there's this like huge bulldozer.
Yeah.
Bulldozer is not an adequate word.
It's like an excavator or something. It's like digging up the ground as it's, a turbine or whatever. As it's going. Yeah, he's got plans. And he basically tells her, I've seen a million of you come and go, and I'm going to need you to stay the fuck out of my way.
Yep.
And she doesn't really answer, but I feel like she's saying okay.
Yeah, I think she is.
I mean, because there's really not much else she can say in this moment.
There was a conversation with Logan and William earlier that made me go like, oh, is one of them from the board? But
oh, right.
I don't think so, because the way that Logan said, he's like, that's why the family's got to invest more in this place.
Yes.
And that's not the talk of like a board member.
Right.
So I'm not sure if we've met someone already or not, but
yeah,
I mean, I guess it could be William that is, and it's Logan's family who's an investor, and William's on the board. But William doesn't seem down with this whole thing. Well, I don't feel like he's the type to be on the board for this place.
We know that William has married into Logan's family, or is going to marry into Logan's family. We know that Logan's family is the one that runs the business that they both work for. And then in that scene you're talking about, Logan says, because William is like, oh, this is business. I thought this was, to get to know each other. Right. And Logan is like, everything in our family is business. Mm-hmm. So I think in between William and Logan, the power is more on Logan's side. And William is just like coming into that world.
Yeah, I'm really curious about poor old William over here. Because I feel like I'm on his side on everything, just because he seems like such an unassuming,
right? He totally means well.
Dude. But then I'm like, are you trying to fool me, show, and make it seem like he's a sane human being, and then he's going to turn out to be like the worst one somehow? I can't not be like suspicious of anybody.
Even worse than Logan?
Not worse. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Logan is just like, he is such a dickhead, but also he really does firmly see this for what it is.
Right.
And that is something that's hard for me to like forgive, because how can you see these people that look so much like people and really compartmentalize that?
Yeah.
I just want to know too how they always know that one person isn't.
How one what?
Well, I guess they were covering that at dinner, because I was going to say how you can tell who is
what
do you call it?
Like who's the host and who's not.
And his solution was just, well, let's just find out, and pulls out his gun.
Yeah. And I think that seems kind of like clumsy, but I think it probably is very practical, because you just shoot. I mean, like, what's the harm, If you shoot at someone who's not a host, nothing's going to happen to them.
Right.
Like there are guests in Artemis's crew. And later on in the episode, when they do the heist in town, and all that shit goes down, the guests that are in her crew don't get hurt. So it's like, it's not like a big deal. So then we go back to William and Logan, and they're going in for their bounty. And they have a shootout, and William is like, Dolores, you have to stay outside because you can get hurt. You're not like me.
Right.
And they go in, they have the shootout, and it looks pretty exciting. William is into it.
This was like the whole start of this thing. Is it supposed to be that this is just a regular house and these dudes have just like come in and taken the place over, kind of?
Yes. Yeah. I think they have like a family that they've been keeping, like, hostage essentially. Sort of. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is fucked up, because they don't really seem like they rescue the family. They just shoot everybody.
I know. This is the thing, is like the whole point of like the start was just to be like, hey, well, we got to make sure that we don't. And Logan's just like, yeah, whatever. And then he just goes ahead and does whatever the fuck he wants anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard for me to, because the owner that we see at first serving them is crouching back there with them with his hands over his ears.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, at first, it seems like he's going to be fine, but then he gets plugged through the head from, like, in back. And the wife, I don't know what happens to her. I don't remember.
I don't think we even see her.
Maybe she got away. Maybe she hid.
Oh.
Who knows? Billy. I keep calling him that in my head because that's the name of the character he plays in Punisher. Logan is out of bullets, which I didn't know could even happen. I like that it can happen because it does add some stakes. Yeah. But he levels up to a better gun.
Yeah, he's all excited.
I like that detail because it's such a video game thing to happen.
Right, yeah.
You know?
I love it that he used that phrase, too. And he also says in the next scene, because they capture their bounty, you know, and they're leaving, and they're about to head back to town, and the guy they've captured, Slim, is saying, you know, I know somebody who'll give you twice the price. Mm-hmm. And Logan gets really excited, and he calls it an Easter egg.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, I don't know what he means. I mean, I know what an Easter egg is, but I'm just not sure what it is that he's excited about specifically here.
This guy, Slim, promises them that the man he works for, whose name is Lonzo, I think, will pay them double, and he can take them to this place called Pariah.
Right.
And Pariah is something that Logan has heard about, but hasn't gotten to do yet.
And that's the name of the town that the Man in Black was at
now,
right?
That's also where he's heading, yes.
Okay. Speaking of the Man in Black, he finds Teddy.
Oh my god, this is awful. I had forgotten this was a thing.
Nasty.
I completely forgot how bad this was.
Yeah, he is he missing an eye? I don't think so, actually.
I don't think so, but it's bad.
Yeah, he is he is strung up by the wrists, and like it's just a really awkward, it looks excruciating. Yeah. But yeah, he says to the Man in Black for him to put him out of his misery.
Yeah.
And he says, sorry, buddy, but it seems like misery is all you've got left.
Right.
As he cuts him down from there. And I'm like, all right, what's this? What does he mean by that? Is he going to scalp this dude? Is he going to scalp Teddy? Does he need more than one scalp? It seems Teddy. Like that maze that we keep seeing is like pretty small. I don't know.
Before we get to Teddy, William and Logan have like a falling out because Logan doesn't want to go do the side quest to Pariah, and Logan.
No, William doesn't.
William doesn't. You're right. I'm sorry. So Logan puts a gun to Dolores, and William puts a gun to Slim, and they have like this weird standoff. And Logan is all like, "Just come on, go Black Hat with me. You know, it'll be fun." And then he's really gross towards Dolores. Cause he's like, if you don't, hit that, I'm gonna call dibs. And he's just the worst. And then we end up with the Hector's group coming back into Sweetwater.
With their friggin' blankets draped up over them looking badass.
I don't ever get tired of this. I mean, some of the stuff we see in the show, we see multiple times. Mm-hmm. But I swear I don't get tired of it.
That is just a really impactful image.
Yeah, it really is. Like coming in all slowly, looking like fucking the Four Horsemen or whatever, like looking like death roaming into town.
And the poor dude comes up, you need to state your business. And Hector just says mayhem.
I love it.
Shoots him.
I love it so much. And we see a quick flash of them at the control, like sort of monitoring the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the music is great. I don't know what this music is because I'm not a classical music person. But
yeah, I don't have the sound up. I don't remember, but I do remember thinking the music was great when I watched this scene.
And so this is the routine. They're coming for the safe. We've seen them do this before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got his rope and they're shooting everybody. And then Maeve is like, we're going to be a little bit different this time. How about that?
She's so teeny tiny.
Yeah, she really is.
They have her corseted up with these bustles and petticoats and everything, but then you see her like little legs sticking out from underneath, and I'm just like, oh right, she's tiny. So she agrees to give him the safe combination if he will give her information on what he turns out to be called the Shades. And I think she gives him all the numbers, but he never opens it, does he?
I don't think we see him open it, no.
Because I think, isn't that like his whole thing, is that he's not meant to open it? Like, it's sort of like Teddy having a vague sense of guilt that he can never atone for, is that Hector's always going to want this thing that's
right,
safe,
right.
And he's never going to get it.
And the man in black tells him when they're in the cell that, what you're looking for isn't in there.
Yeah.
But so all this is happening, the heist, Maeve and Hector, and then we go back to the headquarters, and some visitors have changed their plans and are going to come into town earlier.
Right.
So they need to fucking wrap this shit up.
Yep.
So they decide to have the cavalry come in and just shut all this shit down. So we see the guests get tackled. We see Artemis and the rest of the gang get shot, and Maeve and Hector are in her room, kind of not really aware of what's happening outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's smoking and asking him questions. And he says that the Shades were sent from hell to oversee our world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that sounds right.
It does, doesn't it?
And then she gets his attention because she is sitting there on top of the safe with her legs spread wide. Like, she does this whole straddle thing. And he's like, oh, is that the last thing you need from me? And she's like, lol, no. You're going to have to cut me open because I'm pretty sure there's a bullet from when I got shot. And he's like, when you got shot, you don't have a gunshot wound. And she's like, yeah, that's the thing.
That's the thing, though. And then he's all like, well, I don't usually cut pretty women up. And she's like, all right, fine, I'll do it.
Yep.
And she does. She takes that fucking knife.
She does. Could you do that?
Fuck
I couldn't
no.
fucking do that.
Fuck
Absolutely
no.
not. You'd have to be really sure, man.
Yeah, she jabs that shit right in her belly.
Yep.
But then he has to be the one to like really root around in there.
Yeah.
And sure enough, there's a fucking bullet in there.
Yep.
No scar, but they pull a bullet out.
Yep.
And she says this means that I'm not crazy and none of this matters.
Yeah. Yeah, because he tries to be like, oh, it's a blessing to be able to see the masters who pull your strings. And she's like, no.
Yeah.
It's not.
Mm-hmm.
They like, we gotta stop with saying
right.
So yeah, none of this matters. And meanwhile, poor Artemis gets gunned down, and I was super mad that she died, even though I know she'll be back. I'm just like, come on. And I'm curious about how that works because the man in black, forged a relationship with her. I guess he got what he wanted, and he's not part of this crew. So he doesn't have to try and get that started with her again.
Yeah, he's already.
I do hope we get to see her again.
Yeah, he's gone off with Lawrence to Pariah. The scene with them killing Artemis is particularly brutal.
Yeah, it is.
Which is a weird thing to say because there's so much violence throughout this whole series. But everything with the sheriff being like, "Do you want to die on your feet or laying down?" And then six dudes unload their weapons in her.
Yeah, and she he says, "Do you want to die on your feet or lying down?" and she shoots one of them in the head right before they're able to, like, so she's still just winning, even though she's losing, she really is. You know, giving him the fucking finger on the way out. So yeah, none of this matters, and let's make out.
Let's make out.
And you can smear all my blood all over my face
because it's sexy.
Because it's nothing's hotter than blood. It's one of those things that they definitely did in, like, True Blood and whatnot.
Yeah, they really did. Oh my god!
And I was just always like, I see what you're doing, and I'm sure that works for people, and is the thing, but not me. Because blood, man, that's sticky. Blood isn't just like oil, where you're pleasantly slippery and sliding around, and it keeps things from being frictiony. Blood gets dried up and sticky.
Yep, and crusty.
Yeah.
It's not pleasant.
Dislike.
So we talked a bunch about your theories. Anything in particular you hope to see next time? Besides Artemis, because we all love her.
I really do want to see Artemis again, and I'm not even going to play. I don't know what she would have to do with anything at this point. I guess really what I want is for Artemis to get revenge on Wyatt, because fuck Wyatt, am I right? But I don't know, because everything that I feel like I want to see is, if I say, oh, I would like to see this, that means like, oh, I want this theory to be true. And I don't really want any particular theory to be true. You know, I just want to know what it is.
Right, okay.
So I don't really, like, there's nothing I just want, I guess, I want to spend more time with Dolores, I guess, because she's the one that the most is happening to.
Right.
It seems like. So I think the one thing I'd say I'm hoping is that we don't drop into the next episode with a different character and spend all our time with them.
Okay.
Because I do want to see what's up with her. Yeah, but that's about it.
You're right.
Yeah.
Have you rewatched any of these episodes?
No, I have not. Do you think I should?
I know time is, never enough, but if you get an opportunity to, I would recommend rewatching some episodes.
Okay. Well, I do want Owen to watch it, so maybe I'll rewatch it with him if I can. Convincing him to watch it would be
good luck.
I don't think he is against it. It's just that he has so little time, and he always wants to spend it on something that's like comforting and familiar when he has his time off. So we wind up watching a lot of reruns of The Simpsons, and
that's how my
Seinfeld
life is. Yeah,
and like I get it, and I'm that same way. Like I like to watch familiar stuff when I'm just trying to chill out. But starting something new is tricky, and we have a few things that I've been wanting him to start that are new. I still need to get him to watch the next episode of Sherlock, which is the one that you and I are going to record on, because he's just watched the one previous to that we didn't like. So maybe I'll try and get him to watch it tonight. We'll see. Because that's a patrons only show, guys. The first 3 seasons were, and the 4th season is going to be for $20 and up patrons because it's super special. All right, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's how the episode ends. So, yeah.
Well, guys, you know where to find us. Facebook.com/unspoiledpod. Twitter.com/unspoiledshow. Instagram.com/unspoiledpodcast. And unspoiledpodcast.com. There's a lot happening. Also, if you would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/unspoiled and pledge whatever your little heart desires. And I sent out the Valentine's Day postcards for $10 and up patrons, and some people have already started to get those. And there's all kinds of rewards depending on what tier you pledge at. So y'all should check those out. I really feel like I'm forgetting to mention something, but I think we're good.
I think so.
This has gone on long enough.
These things have been super fucking long, too.
Yeah. Sorry,
There's
everybody.
just a lot to talk about with this show.
There is. When you're in a place where you can have literally 8 different theories and just like spin off.
It's good, right?
Like, it's good, but it does turn into a 2-hour long show because I have to explain each of those 8 theories and then leave time for you to laugh at me.
Well, yeah, that's what people are tuning in for.
Exactly, yeah. That's why we're here. All right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Make sure to leave a review on iTunes. I will start checking in on that next week. And we will see you next week with the next episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.